We're just a few days away from Christmas, and depending on where in the world that you're listening from, you may be in for a white Christmas. Right now, we're under about 2 feet of snow, airports are closed, and it's pretty nasty out there. So brew some coffee, pull up a chair, and open your mind. Today on Science vs. Conspiracy over coffee, we'll be chatting with Michael Clogs, an analyst and a chemical engineer. He is also the founder of Depictions Media, a podcasting and video production company that was founded on the idea that everyone has a story, and those stories can and do have a positive impact on their community. Before we get started, I just wanted to say, you do have the unique distinction of being our first guest, so welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to have you on the show because when we first met, you said that you were a chemical engineer, and which was very different than what you were at our networking group advertising with Depictions Media. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got into being a chemical engineer and how it switched over to Depictions Media?
Well, as a kid, I was always involved in science. Matter of fact, for those of us who were born before 1980, probably remember this thing called the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Mm-hmm.
I used to read all kinds of science stuff. It was actually in these 23 volumes of books on all different types of topics.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my heroes growing up was Carl Sagan. And if for those of you who don't know, Carl Sagan was a very much so celebrated astrophysicist,
Mm-hmm.
and he actually made the cosmos sexy with documentaries and stuff like that.
No, he really did, yeah.
And so that just kind of led down the path of me, always being interested in sciences, and eventually I wound up going to Penn State University.
Mm-hmm.
And there I got my degree in chemical engineering. It took me a while to actually find a job doing it.
Right.
It's not as easy as it seems. Go get degree and then you graduate and you have job. No, that doesn't work that way. But I did wind up working for Mitsubishi Gas and Chemical as a high-tech analyst.
Okay.
And I was able to, if for those of you listening, if you don't catch on to this white right off, it's understandable because the human brain can't figure past 1 million. And I was testing down to the part quadrillion.
Interesting.
So you have million, billion,
mm-hmm.
Trillion, quadrillion. So the human brain really can't even fathom what a quadrillion actually looks like because it's such a vast number.
Mm-hmm.
But what we were doing, we were looking for one piece of impurity out of one quadrillion pieces of good product.
Okay.
So ultra pure stuff for the semiconductor industry, and it was being sold to the likes of Sony, Samsung, and for those of you who know a little bit about electronics, you also know that Samsung is one of the major builders for Apple.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's kind of weird that they're one of the major competitors, but they're also one of the suppliers.
Yeah. Well, That was the miracle that was Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
He could talk you into being talk his competitors into doing what he wanted them to do.
Mm-hmm.
So amazing stuff that guy pulled off. So yeah, and the iPhone and the Samsung Galaxy phones are essentially the same circuit, just a different operating system placed over top of it.
Right.
So yeah. So what from there, what actually happened was I had a awakening to how industries are actually working
Mm-hmm.
and how they were actually um, not telling the truth to our consumers.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with the science. What it is how people are making money from the science.
Mm-hmm.
So I left.
So you left.
Yeah. I didn't. I left. I left Mitsubishi and I left um, the that particular career behind to be a truth teller.
Mm-hmm. And then that's when
And
Depiction Media
yeah, and
was
that
founded.
was the beginning of Depictions Media. I found myself on radio advocating for different human rights causes and things like that. So yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, that's so interesting that it's how your pathway to getting to Depictions Media and where you are because of the work that you were doing and the corporate landscape, I guess,
Yeah.
brought you
Well, you
to where you are.
yeah, you love a good conspiracy, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. That's why we're
Okay.
here.
Okay. Here's the conspiracy behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember saccharin?
Mm-hmm.
And you remember that it was during the 1980s going into the 1990s, it was supposed to be like this horrible thing and would cause cancer, and you wouldn't even have to eat but just a little bit of it, and you were destined to have cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, um, the competitor lab for saccharin was running into financial trouble, and they had this product called aspartame, otherwise known as NutraSweet.
Mm-hmm.
And they needed to get it on the market, or else they could possibly the whole thing could possibly cause some serious financial damage to this particular company. Well, long story short is that they actually paid somebody in a laboratory to fudge the numbers.
What?
And the fudging of the numbers enabled NutraSweet to get on the market and get a major market share,
Mm-hmm.
so that they had a viable product in the sweetener business.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anything for money to be the first
Yeah.
in the market.
So when we're all like thinking it's like, and it was it boiled down to a misplaced what the official word through mass media was is it was a misplaced decimal point.
Misplaced decimal point, right?
Well, that would do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like causes massive cancer or
doesn't.
doesn't. Okay, decimal place over to whichever side it takes to make it.
Mm-hmm.
So the decimal place was misplaced, and along the end at the end of the day, it turns out that saccharin is probably less toxic than NutraSweet.
Yeah, try to stay away from all that stuff.
Well, I have my coffee sitting nearby. I drink black coffee.
So do I.
I don't eat or drink much sugar at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we look at any sweetener, um, it, if overindulged in, can actually feed the abnormal cells.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even like the regular sugar cane.
Yeah, even regular sugar cane can feed abnormal cells. So, which is something else that through testing that they
Mm-hmm.
they decided to overlook.
Right.
Yes, yes, we do actually need the sugar, but we don't need to sweeten our food.
Mm-hmm.
This sugar will appear no matter what we do either way. Rather it's sweet or bitter or whatever. The sugar is actually already there.
Right,
So
yeah, because our body does require a certain amount of
yeah,
different substances.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, to quote the remake of Cosmos that was done by uh, uh, Neil Tyson deGrasse,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that he actually says that it is actually in the DNA of this planet that sugar will be processed a certain way, and everything that has DNA in it
Mm-hmm.
processes sugar a certain way. Even the trees processes sugar the same way as we do.
Hmm.
It is. Everything has sugar in it somewhere.
Right, so yeah, it makes sense that our evolution would bring us to the point where if it's in everything, we have to process it a certain way or we wouldn't survive.
Right. And it also would make sense that we don't need to add sugar to anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if we're getting the right types of food, then we don't need the extra bits.
Yeah, we don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
So there is in a nutshell where industry once again says, "Hey, we want you to buy the product, so we're gonna tell you that you definitely have to have it."
Mm-hmm.
So there's our conspiracy with the food industry. It's all about sugar, fat, and salt,
Yeah, no,
and lab testing that go with it.
um,
So yeah.
so how did, from I guess your chemical engineer background, how did you get your resume at CERN? Because you mentioned that before.
Oh, I was looking for a job. Being a human rights activist doesn't it seemingly it's pay as well as you think it does, and um, and I was running out of savings, and I needed to find a job. So I sent my resume out to numerous different agencies and companies around the world, and lo and behold, CERN and NASA actually got back to me saying that they were reviewing my resume.
Wow.
I was like, it wasn't as much about the chemical engineering part was is the fact that I actually had experience in a class 10,000 clean room.
Right, and that's where from Mitsubishi.
Yeah,
Then,
that
yeah.
was Mitsubishi. We operated within a class 10,000 clean room, and anybody who knows the protocols of that was going to be helpful with certain projects, either building
Mm-hmm.
projects or um, with certain if for everybody understanding what the particle accelerator actually does, they have to limit the amount of particles that actually enter the accelerator. So, and that's where your class 10,000 clean room comes in. It's a limited and countable amount of particles in the room.
Hmm. So that would have been what you would have been responsible for, is kind of ensuring that. And
The analysis of the room.
yeah.
Kind of fun, right?
Oh yeah.
And as a result, I followed like a lot of the experiments that happened at CERN.
Mm-hmm.
There again, it's it's really a interesting concept. What they do is with the Large Hadron Collider, especially, they accelerate particles to the near point of light speed. Now, for those of you who know anything at all about the laws of physics, and especially uh, Einstein versus Niels Bohr, that they both agreed on one thing, that we can't achieve light speed. That is the universal speed limit.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing will ever go faster than that until proven otherwise.
Right.
So being able to accelerate a particle to nearly the speed of light, it's actually, I think they get it to 99.999%
Right.
um, of light speed. And then they smash the particles together, they make them collide, and then they look to see what the subsequent particles would be.
So we did an episode a little while ago. I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to it or not, but we talked about CERN and the weird stuff that's going on there, supposedly going on, allegedly going on there with the particle accelerator. So how do you respond to like stuff like when they say that that there's people are concerned that they're opening up a black hole, or accessing the multiverse, or it's the cause of the Mandela effect? Do you know any any of that?
Yeah, no, I've heard all these things before,
Mm-hmm.
and if it okay, yeah, there are, shall we say, micro black holes, or micro wormholes that can be created, but they're so small that they become insignificant to our life.
Mm.
Um, the multiverse part is, it's sometimes people the one experiment they did where they found the Higgs boson.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you understand what the Higgs field is, the Higgs field is where energy or light passes through it, and it picks up mass, thus creating matter.
Right.
Okay, so they found the smallest piece, which would be called of the field, which would be called a boson.
Mm-hmm.
And when they found that particular boson, it wasn't found in a singular place.
Okay.
It was found in, I believe, two different places at two different times.
2 different times.
Yes.
How can that be though? Like out
Well,
minutes apart, hours apart, like.
I think it was hours apart, I believe, but that's not the significant part of
Mm-hmm.
it. The actual significant part is that, and this is where people are are kind of uh, getting worried about things, but there's really nothing to worry about. Is that throughout life, how do we measure time?
Mm-hmm.
By a clock. And the clock is a single dimension, one way, no other way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, with the discovery of that particular boson, what they actually proved is that time is multidimensional. or the idea that there could be a theory for multidimensional time.
Mm-hmm. Right, like space time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it becomes. Einstein said it should be a continuum, but um, there's never really been a lot of proof around it.
Mm-hmm.
And this actually proved that we could actually come up with an actual working theory for multidimensional time.
Opening the door for time travel at some point, potentially.
Potentially. Which is kind of interesting in of itself because we actually travel through time to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I like to describe time myself as a field of existence, not just a clock.
Right.
So it's all around us. It's in just about everything we have to do, and with time being not being just a measurement of minutes and hours, it can have a, shall we say, a up factor, an in and out factor, making it at least three-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Then it changes how we can actually move, how we're actually moving through time.
Right. Is this tie into the quantum energy that I read that um, you've done other podcasts about?
Yeah, it does have something to do with quantum energy. Yeah, if you're listening after December 22nd, 2022, that there is a energy project that is going on in Europe. They finally made some serious strides in it with nuclear fusion.
Right. Yep. Yeah, we talked about
So
that last week on the show a little bit.
yeah, and that's going to lead down to, as we're talking about quantum energy,
Mm-hmm.
is it will lead to quantum power, where it could eventually change how we actually receive electricity in our homes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But that's still years away.
years away. It's still years away, but we're at the beginning of it. Yay! Just something to be celebrated, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because whether you believe in uh, the climate change debate or fossil fuels or any of that kind of stuff, having an easily renewable source of energy that's environmentally sound and everything, it can't be anything but good news.
Yeah. Which leading back to, there have always been opponents against that particular project because um, they said one of the arguments I read about it against it was that if it's how the sun works, then when we ignite this thing and we really get it started, it's going to burn the planet up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not really.
Right.
Not really at all. So
yeah, it's kind of different. But
yeah,
but I guess China has their own fusion project going on that they've been able to, like they're calling it the sun or something, the second sun. Um, and I guess they're competing for the
yeah.
the technology, I guess.
Yeah, well, China it has always been competitive with things,
Mm-hmm.
but they're so secretive about things. They don't like to share.
Right.
Where I believe that the project's in France, and France is always willing to share it. And France is looking for people to actually, other countries to jump on board with it, so that they can actually have more funding to make the project more viable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess anything's possible as long as the money keeps flowing.
Yeah, and the thought process of that is that eventually the money won't be needed because it becomes self-sustaining.
Mm-hmm.
I, there's a lot going on with that, but these are some of the same engineers and everything that helped build that hadron collider.
Mm-hmm.
But there's with power like that, there's a lot of amazing things that we could actually do to bring Elon Musk up. We might even be able to effectively colonize Mars.
Yeah, he seems to be hell bent, determined to get us to Mars.
That one, yeah. Um, but understanding quantum power and understanding um, we were able to build things like the James Webb telescope that is not quite a million miles away from the planet Earth,
Mm-hmm.
but it's out there pretty far, and it's being powered completely by a solar wind.
Oh, I didn't know that part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it has these huge solar and the significance of solar wind is actually the aurora borealis
Mm-hmm.
is the evidence of this is the storms blow off particles, and when you see or northern lights, when you see that, it is actually those particles, some particles interacting with our atmosphere.
Right. Yeah, and bouncing off the magnetic field.
Magnetic fields and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's when like we have solar storms, and at different times when you get to see the northern lights at different parts of the world because of how it's affecting the magnetic field.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't realize the James Webb was powered by that. I've just been so consumed by the amazing images that it's producing.
Well, the next telescope we could look at would be like the Hubble telescope, where it's a battery.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a type of a nuclear battery.
Right.
It's actually powering that. So one is probably going to be more sustainable because batteries run out. Even nuclear batteries, they have a lifespan,
Mm-hmm.
and but the upside and downside to one versus the other is while one is collecting particles to actually power it, um, the other one having the, the nuclear battery is more enclosed, so it can sustain more of a collision.
Right, and that's what
Like
the Voyager.
Webb, it's kind of toast.
Right, yeah, because that's what the Voyager spacecrafts have. Some sort of nuclear battery that's running out soon. That's why they're trying to get as much information back before that does die out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of the powers they'll probably power down soon.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is the signal weakening because they're so distant.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's it brings to another theory about the speed of light is does their signal is actually traveling at the speed of light.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the interesting part about that it's speed of light when we look at it on our planet, because right now you're a light signal on my computer screen,
Mm-hmm.
and the same for me to you. I'm a light signal on your computer screen, and we're able to have a conversation in real time back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Light isn't really all that fast when you look at the universe. When we start talking about light years
Mm-hmm.
and what that actually means, the next closest planet to us that would be like an M-class planet that would be in the Goldilocks zone and all that kind of stuff, it would take more than at traveling at the speed of light, it would take more than 400 years to get to it.
That's Alpha Centauri? Is that the closest one, or is there something else? Or Proximus B?
Proximus B, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the one. It's like 400 light years away.
Mm-hmm.
It's still within the Milky Way galaxy, but it's so
it's not something.
In order for us to colonize, say, a planet, the next planet, the M-class planet in the Goldilocks zone, we would actually have to build a ship that would self-colonize itself. In order, it would have to be a space-bound colony to begin with.
Yeah, a generational ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generational ship. There you go.
I think I got that from Doctor Who.
Yeah, we're moving past the lifespan of the human being.
Yep.
Even if we were to put ourselves in stasis, we still couldn't reach it, because our cell structure would decompose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have, I guess, bringing it back to CERN then, with some of the experiments in the wormholes and black holes that the micro black holes and wormholes that they're creating. I guess that's what we have to really be pushing for, the advancements in that, so we can kind of recreate these wormholes to travel through in order to reach these distant places at a reasonable rate. Or
at a reasonable rate, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because right now you just can't hop on the train and go to Alpha Centauri or Proximus B for the weekend. We're going to need those exotic transports. Exotic,
exotic transports and all that stuff. We can't. This isn't gonna do it. Our current technology just isn't gonna get us there.
Mm-hmm.
Say we were to take off right now on that trip, we would last, say, maybe another 50 years or so, and never get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then our children wouldn't get there. Our grandkids may be like halfway there.
Yeah, there'd be a whole generations of people growing up who would never know what being on the planet would be like. They'd live and die on the spaceship.
Yeah, which leads us to there was an episode in Star Trek, original Star Trek,
mm-hmm.
with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy and all, and Nichelle Nichols made well, at least two of them, rest in peace. Nichelle Nichols died this year, I believe it was.
Yeah, that was really sad.
Yeah. Lieutenant Uhura, gone.
Yeah, they're getting up there in the age.
Yeah, they are.
We're losing them one by one.
Yeah. There was an episode where one of the groups that they ran into were actually on board of a spaceship and didn't know that they were actually on board the spaceship because they had been born there. So that's the situation you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That the people who would arrive there would not have been born on planet Earth. they would have been born on the spaceship and
Yeah.
delivered.
Yeah, and then the other option is space seed or speed with a con in stasis, and then
Yes.
yeah.
So,
But then we wouldn't. You're saying we wouldn't last that long because of our makeup. We
yeah,
wouldn't be able to last hundreds of years
it
in
wouldn't.
stasis.
Yeah, we wouldn't last hundreds of years in stasis. So
Hmm.
at least how we currently look at stasis.
Right.
So yeah, um, but there's a lot of work being done in like between NASA, CERN, European space agencies,
Hmm.
um, the uh, International Space Station. They're they've run a lot of experiments trying to build um, uh, crystals and things like that that would help these sort of things move along.
Hmm.
So it's kind of interesting because the United States and Canada built this space station, and now years and years later, we're depending on the Russians to
Yeah.
it just a ride to do our own damn thing.
Yeah. It's so bizarre the relationship that we have with the Russians. We depend on them for space travel to get to the International Space Station, but then on the other hand, we're fighting. Well, not us. That's another thing. But we're engaged in a war with them. But
Yes,
we
we're
yeah
not indirectly engaged.
yeah.
Yes, yeah, but so I but the positive part to that is that the world of science transcends that political war.
Yeah,
You
and that's
know,
the way it should be. Like we shouldn't be bound to um, the political will of any one country, or if countries are fighting. Like, if we could just get together and have the smartest people working together, no matter what the country, um, and just get them working together, and be far better ahead on not only like space travel, but um, many other issues that are going on in the world.
there's a lot of issues. There um, there have been businesses that have gone to that have they they're allowed to work anywhere in the world,
Hmm.
but the United States and Canada. And the reason is because they went to the University of Tehran.
Right.
What is it? Physics different in Iran than it is in Canada and the United States? Is that what
Must be something they're not telling us. Something that they learned in that school.
is something there that we missed here? Because if science and physics are the same, doesn't matter what school you went to.
Hmm.
You have the knowledge, so why can't you be allowed to do the job
Right.
or allow your research to be taught
Hmm.
anywhere in the world?
Yeah, because that's the other side of it, is that in lots of different countries, um, what you're teaching or what they've learned, they can't even say it because of um, their because of the country's government is suppressing it, and um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
It's one thing for China not to want to share, but it's another thing for um, our government or our friends to the south
Hmm.
to say, oh no, that can't possibly exist because that came from those people.
Right. Yeah, they can't deny it,
Yeah,
but they do.
I've never been able to understand that. We could get into a lot of issues around that particular piece of where I've been educated.
Mm-hmm.
It's all mumbo jumbo. The human body works the same no matter where we go on our planet. Physics is the same no matter where we go in the universe.
Mm-hmm. That we know of.
Same laws apply.
Yeah.
So if this person knows that work, then allow them to operate with that work and be able to share it with the masses no matter where they go.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, human rights thing there.
Yeah. No. Yeah, we could go into a whole discussion about the human rights side of things, but we can leave that for another show. Well, this has been great, and we're almost out of time. Is there any last words you want to say?
Last words are let's work with open minds. Last words.
Those are good last words. Yeah, well, that's the show for today, and I want to give a big thanks to Michael for being available and willing to do the show. So thank you very much. If you like the show, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. There will be a video portion of this on Wednesday going up on YouTube. We've made an unedited video portion of this podcast available to our members on Patreon, so go check that out and subscribe. And don't forget to check us out on our other social media channels. Like I said at the top of the show, we are just a few days away from Christmas. So I'd like to wish everyone a happy holiday season, whatever you celebrate. And we'll be back in the new year. So remember, being paranoid is smart. We'll see you next time. This week's episode of Science vs. Conspiracy Over Coffee was produced by Lithologica. Research and writing was done by Bob Homer and Jennifer Timer.